Hello, welcome to Heidi Reddit Relationships. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Pregnant girlfriend cheated on me, her affair got into a serious car accident and is now brain dead. Relationship advice. The first story is titled, BF27M suddenly leaves to Finland, where his ex lives, with 2 single mates, for 2 months, leaving me alone for Christmas and Nye. It is to work on himself because he is depressed. How can I ever support this? Me and Dan have been together for 3 months now and they haven't been very smooth. I often feel like I'm pulling the relationship forward by initiating almost all sexy times, a lot of the events and supporting him in his choices even though I don't always stand behind them. He disagrees and tells me I just don't see his initiatives because I focus on the negative in him. He is depressed or shows many signs as I have been depressed myself. I know the thoughts and the behavior. He doesn't feel a thing of happiness and isn't enthusiastic anymore about a lot and lowers his mask with me, which I want him to be able to do with me. It is absolutely exhausting when I haven't seen him in 1.5 weeks to have made the bed, bought treats and beer he likes, putting on exciting music he likes and getting myself in a nice piece of underwear to be rejected by him lying in bed with his eyes closed and unable to interact with me or talk with me because he is just tired and doesn't show any appreciation. Now we are working on this, but it's been draining me and not wanting me to visit him as often, because I have a very heavy study load at the moment where I really need my sleep and sanity. He is going into therapy after the doctor will send him through. So he has acknowledged the problems, which is great. But, he just told me last weekend he'll leave next Friday. At first it was 2 weeks to go away to Berlin to unwind and work on himself. Which I accepted, because I wanted what he thought was best for him. Then it would be suddenly with 2 of his mates. Which I hardly accepted because this would be to work on himself and why not with me but with them? Then it would be to Finland, where his ex lives of 6 months ago. Then it would be for 2 months, so missing Christmas and New Year's Eve together. I cannot accept this and I asked for some space. Right now we are on a break and we'll see each other Thursday before he leaves. I'm devastated because I gave it my all and now he just leaves me to work on himself in the country of his ex, with his 2 mates for 2 months, which just does not make any sense. He is literally running away from his problems and the relationship, leaving me. He knows how important this Christmas is for me. He knew how important my birthday was a month ago, but he didn't get me anything then as well. What should I do really, because I do love the guy. He is good by heart and he is very sweet and tries his best, but this. Really? I tried so hard because I like him that much. He cried when I talked about the break and he doesn't want to lose me, I'm amazing etc. I deserve better and he understands my choice. The next story is titled, Update, BF27M suddenly leaves to Finland, where his ex lives, with 2 single mates, for 2 months, leaving me alone for Christmas and Nye. It is to work on himself because he is depressed. How can I ever support this? I broke up with him 2 days ago. Last night is the first time I slept well again. I've listened to your advice, friends and families included, and they all said I deserved more than I was getting. In the end, he told me the reason for the breakup would be that I expect too much and he can't give me that, but maybe a more emotional person would be able to. Expectations would be excitement to see me and wanting to do things with me. I also expected something for my birthday and to be together for Christmas. Guys, really I asked for too much. Someone that you love and care for saying that can really screw with your morals. So I was very unhappy. In the end, even a dog would give me more than my partner ever did. I'm very happy Reddit helped me through this decision and I believe it's the right one. My mind knows this, but my heart is still hurting quite a lot. He cried the whole time and was very sad about it all, but couldn't accept that this was really due to his actions and or lack of them, but that I wanted too much in a relationship and I should work on myself for that according to him. I actually didn't cry anymore and haven't since saying the final goodbye. The reason why he didn't get me a birthday present was also that he didn't think I should always get things my way. He would have been happy for me to just be there for his birthday, so I should be happy too with him being there. Could you give me some tips to keep me happy and distracted from the heartache during COVID? A user in the comments said, "The quickest way to heal is for your perception of him to align with who he really is. Make a list of all the times he was a douche or tried to manipulate you into accepting less or refused to take responsibility for his actions or couldn't get his crap together or any other red flags that help you see that you dodged a bullet, and reread it whenever you feel like you miss him. You'll absolutely thrive without him. I promise. His greatest punishment is having to go through life being him." The next story is titled, I, 25F, just learned a family secret about my mother, 52F. My dad, 61M, and her side of the family have decided to abandon her. This is my first time using Reddit, so I apologize if there's any mistakes or I ramble on. Strap in, because this is going to be a long one. The first thing you should know is that I live with my family and I'm not in a position to move out right now. I know, believe me. It sucks. Another thing you should know is that my mother is a very angry person who has on occasions been physically violent towards my dad. Cannot drive. I can't drive either, but I'm fixing that this year. Has been unemployed since I was a child and has actively avoided looking for a job, and has generally became a shut-in and I've been stuck inside with her for all my life. She also the most hard-headed person I've ever had the displeasure of knowing, and she just won't listen to anyone. I guess I'll just start with what happened last week. That was the boiling point. I was woken up by her throwing things against the wall and screaming about the neighbors upstairs. We live in an apartment, and them tasing her through the walls. She's been accusing them of this for years and other accusations that just aren't true. It got to the point where the neighbors got tired of it and called the cops. Thankfully, they let her off with a warning and left peacefully. While she and the neighbors were arguing, I was talking on phone to one of her sisters to find out what's going on. One of my aunts then drops on me that my mother has had these kinds of breakdowns, which I now know is paranoid schizophrenia, in her mid-20s before she got back with my dad. They had broken up for a few years and had got back together before I was born. Apparently, she was living with them and would have these episodes often, to the point where they just kicked her out because she would never take the medicine she needed. After she got back with my dad, they never told him about any of this because I assume they wanted her away from them, and if he knew, he probably wouldn't have taken her in. I'm shocked that they kept this from me and my dad for years. Every time I would tell them about how my mother would accuse me of things, would yell at me when my dad wasn't there, would blame me for ruining her life, wouldn't let me go out on my own or have my own friends, would stalk me on my walks to work, wouldn't let me go out on my own, they would always say that she has an anger management problem, and was overprotective. They knew she had a mental illness and nobody told me. My dad always said she was wacky and angry, and that's why he worked so late to avoid her, leaving me to deal with her. My dad already has another girlfriend and is ready to divorce and move away. However, that doesn't solve the problem. If I move out with him, there's nowhere my mother can go. My dad said he could find my mother a place to live and I could move in with her, but that's not a good option either. My dad has checked out of the relationship, my mom's side has washed their hands of the matter, and I'm the only one who cares to do anything. My grandma on my dad's side and my LDR fiancé both said that I shouldn't be held responsible to take care of my mother, but I refuse to turn a blind eye to this like everyone else has. I know this might be above Reddit's pay grade, hell, it might even be above mine own, but I can't just leave a sick woman to fend for herself without at least attempting to get her some help. So Reddit, what do I do? The next story is titled, Update I 25F, just learned a family secret about my mother 52F. My dad 61M, and her side of the family have decided to abandon her. Nobody asked for an update, but I'm doing it anyway. So in short, everyone has decided to just not do anything. Doctors and police won't step in unless she becomes violent to herself or others. Because carrying a kitchen knife with her everywhere, putting holes in our walls, and harassing our neighbors with young children to the point of police interference isn't violent enough, apparently. All of my aunts have essentially moved on from the incident. None of them have done anything to help, they've just decided to not bring it up anymore. None of them will answer any questions I have. How long has she had paranoid schizophrenia? When did it start? Why did no one tell me? But they'll drop off food to our house that no one asked for. I guess this is their way of an apology. I'm not accepting it. My dad has started to avoid her even more now. He leaves at 5 a.m. and doesn't come back until 9 p.m., leaving me to deal with her even more. Seeing that my mother thinks she's done nothing wrong and my dad is avoiding home altogether, I had to take it upon myself to apologize to our neighbors. That was a fun time. I feel like when it comes down to it, all the responsibility for care for my mother will inevitably come down to me. I know if I leave, my dad won't do anything and her side of the family will probably kick her out again. While I should be saving for an apartment so I can live with my fiancé, I'm now having to use those funds to save up for assisted living care for her. And that leads me to this update and me looking for more advice. I need to know how to forgive my aunts. I know that they lied and I don't condone that, but I do understand why they would keep this from my dad and I. The last 25 years has been a struggle on us, so I can only imagine what hell they've lived with when living with her. I want to stay angry at them, but anger takes a lot of energy out of someone and I'm not the kind of person to hold grudges. So, how do I deal with this? The next story is titled, I 25 per meters, just found out my pregnant GF 22F cheated on me. The guy got into a serious car accident. I am in shock right now. My relationship started to become strained after the birth of our first child. I found out during dinner with her ducking parents. Her phone started going off like crazy. It was from her friends and they ducking knew. She left her phone at the table to grab her coat after all the ducking waterworks. The witch was ducking some dude called Andrew and it started recently. Recent enough for me to doubt that the child she carries is even mine. I broke her phone when she tried to grab it from me. Her parents threatened to call the police on me. I left with my son. I don't want her in my life. I don't want her to be involved with my child, Ren, life. I am so ducking angry right now. Edit, I want a relationship with my children and not her. I can't be a father long distance. Her boyfriend is brain dead. Her mother told me to have some sympathy. Duck that. My life is ruined. Edit 2. Most users are assuming I am a US citizen. I am not. Once my contract is up, I will have to leave the United States. How on earth can I be a father if I can't even be with my children? Edit 3. I picked up the damn phone out of curiosity. Holy crap. I was assaulted when tried to take it from me. Edit 4. Phone is still with me. I am taking screenshots. I paid for it by credit card. My name on the contract. Edit 5. Okay, I'll get some therapy. Anger management or domestic violence? Same thing I guess. Edit 6. Waiting for her to return before I do anything. Need to video myself leaving my apartment untouched and in peace for my own safety. The next story is titled, Update I 25 per meters, just found out my pregnant GF 22F cheated on me. Her lover died. DNA tests in So, I just spent Valentine's Day with my ex. Talked about how we were going to get through this as adults. I'm still hurt, resentful and unsympathetic to her plight. But hey, we have a kid. Yes, I am the father to my son. DNA test confirmed it. She wouldn't agree to a test for the baby until it was born. I'm trying to play good cop, bad cop here. I don't think she is on Reddit, but legally speaking I'm literally ducked when it comes to custody. I can't go into the details. Her dad eventually collected my son. He wanted his mom and the phone was also returned. It only had a cracked screen. The phone isn't a massive issue, I might reveal why later, unlike my employment, residence and immigration status. However, I am advised to make a non-binding agreement with her on custody out of court if possible. The days after my predicament at dinner, I found myself constantly juggling my emotions whenever I met my ex and drinking a lot lately. It's been a rough week with all the texts and calls. Firstly, when she came to collect the rest of her belongings. I had already packed her crap in bin bags. I made it known she was trash. I got into an argument with her friends and her male friends clearly intimidated me. Her girlfriend suggested I marry my ex and live separate lives. Where is she getting this advice from? WTF. Reddit. I had to threaten to call the police because they wouldn't leave. All on video. A total crap show. Secondly, she wouldn't budge on the fact that I was the father of both of her children. We agreed to a few private paternity tests on our son and that tests would be carried out post-birth. Her attitude this entire time has always been remorseful. Maybe because she believes that I'm abandoning her and the fact that Andrew is dead. Her life is in the crap, but that's on her. Andrew was engaged and from what I know, his family are not pleased with this little surprise. I can't say I pity her, although, it is the worst way to get caught cheating. She explained her relationship with Andrew. I totally feel like a second-string backup. She tried to tell me that she always loved me, however, it's over between us and I don't love her anymore. Finally, Valentine's Day, the worst I have ever had. I had thought, I would have been spending it alone or with a Tinder date. The ex-GF turned up without asking because she wanted to talk. We went to the place that I had reserved for us weeks earlier and it such was an awkward experience. Got home to another round of major waterworks and drinking. She literally begged me to stay with her and to stay for the kids. I tried to press the idea of the kids living with me eventually. We agreed to some relationship counseling and so that I would have a mediator to negotiate custody. She tried to sleep with me again when I was in bed, like WTF. I started shouting at her because she is stressing herself out. Sea levels increased overnight as I slept on the couch. She cried through the night. I can't lie, I can't believe I'm still sexually attracted to her after all this. It's a crap feeling. It's time for me to look into how I'm going to co-parent with her. I need to avoid this going to court. My ex isn't that stable right now, but I need her to cooperate with me. I might update again once something significant happens. It's time for me to go take a long-ass holiday. Edit. Andrew, 28 meters, and my ex have had an on and off relationship before I was in the picture. The next story is titled, BF28M, kept hanging with and touching random girl at a party I was also at. 26F, Infidelity. I've been seeing my boyfriend for about 8 months. We're both pretty outgoing and adventurous, but this was the first real party we were both going to at the same time. It was a Halloween party, so we were dressed up as 2 characters from the same show and had some drinks before leaving. We planned to get a little drunk but not blackout drunk since we both had to be up the next day. Anyways, long story short, he kept drinking when we got there, which was fine until I saw him stumble. I told him he's drunk enough and we're having fun, and him drinking more would mean he'd be falling all over. He agreed but apparently kept drinking. Anyways, we danced on and off for maybe an hour when he went to the bathroom and didn't come back for like 30 minutes. I was fine and just kept dancing myself and with other people I knew when I looked over and he's chatting up some chick. I'm like, okay, maybe he knows her. I look back and she's dancing on the stairs and he's slapping her ass. I turn red and hold myself back from going over there and think about what I'm gonna do. One person I met at the party looks over and is like, "Isn't he with you?" And I'm like, "Not really," to cover, but like an idiot I'm dressed to match him. Anyways, I wait for an opening and I go over and tell him I'm leaving, I'll see him later, as if we didn't come together, and he follows me out. Some guy follows us and starts yelling at him about him trying to touch ass, and my BF is so drunk he doesn't even respond, and I just grab him and we leave. I put him in the back of a cab and I sit in front and we both don't say anything. The plan was for him to spend the night since he lives really far, so we get to my place and I put him to bed and sleep on the couch. I told him in the morning I didn't want to see him anymore and he claims he doesn't remember anything. I tell him I don't care because never have I felt so disrespected and humiliated, and I'm not dealing with this. The trust is gone. Not only that, I was dressed all hot and he barely paid any attention to me all night, so now my confidence is also just shattered. He's very apologetic but also saying he was just too drunk and didn't know what he was doing, so I shouldn't hold it against him. My question is, I'm not overreacting for breaking up with him, right? And also, how do I stop feeling like complete trash after this humiliating experience? I can barely leave my app at the moment and my friends are texting me about this too and I DK what to say. The next story is titled, Update, BF28M, kept hanging with and touching random girl at a party I was also at. 26F, hey guys, this is just an update to my original post. It's been a bit over a year since I posted and I wanted to give everyone an update and say thank you for all the kind words and advice I got here. My ex tried contacting me a couple times after our breakup and he did come one evening to pick up the stuff he'd left at my place. I'd planned to just give him his stuff and shut the door, but he talked me into having a bit more discussion. Basically, he apologized over and over and I reiterated there was no going back from this. I mentioned that if he did this type of thing while I was around, I can only imagine what he does when he's out drinking with his friends and at rock fests he'd been to since we've been together. He was upset I was painting him as a cheater and that I said he was lucky he didn't get charged for assault. After our discussion, he stopped contacting me until a few months later he sent me a text early in the morning on my birthday asking how I was, to which I didn't respond. Since the initial heartbreak, I've actually been doing really well. My friends were there for me when I finally reached out and I got really close to a couple of them over this situation. It's a long story, but we've since gone into business together and are doing better than expected, and I closed on my first house last week. On top of that, after some dating around, I started seeing a really nice guy over the summer, and now with the pandemic hitting hard where I am, we've been able to quarantine together and it turns out I really like him, So thanks again everyone for validating me when I was questioning my decision. It's really hard to know if you're thinking properly when you're in that space, so I appreciate the help and support. I know I for one like reading happy endings on these types of forums, so I'm glad I can contribute my own. The next story is titled, My 28F boyfriend, 32M, told me a white lie for almost 3 years and I'm not sure if it's a red flag. I'll try to make this as short as possible, but it's going to be long as hell because there is so much lying going on. My boyfriend and I have been dating for almost 3 years, living together for 2. We have a pretty good relationship, obviously with ups and downs, but we make it work and are happy. A little background on me, my boyfriend, for context. I come from a single-parent home. My father was absent. My mother is by no means perfect, but she did her best with what she had. We were poor. Life was never easy for us, but we had each other. Since I was pretty young, I've wanted to pay her back someday. I've worked incredibly hard to be able to do so. I help her financially as much as I can and regularly pay her bills, send her cash. I'm also her only living child now as my brother passed away 5 years ago, which basically left me to help her. I don't care, I love my mother, and the right thing to do is to help her when she needs it. But is stressful. This is relevant because my boyfriend described coming from a somewhat similar past, and it is something we have bonded over. Having the mutual experiences seem to bring us closer. He told me he also helped his parents financially, and we would often vent to each other about the stress it brings. I am not one to confide in many people, so having someone who I felt like actually understood me was meaningful to me. So here is where the lies come in, and I need someone to either tell me I'm not crazy and this is ducked up, or that I am crazy and this isn't a huge deal. I'm fine with either. When we met, my boyfriend lived in a condo in a pretty swanky part of the city. I live in the US Northeast. He told me he owned that apartment condo. I found this to be interesting, odd because he was 28 at the time, and I know this property is upwards of $650,000 on the low end, and he was in an entry-level job for only like 2 years, so the numbers just didn't really add up. Whatever, maybe he's good at saving. But then, since living together, I never once saw a piece of mail for a mortgage payment, electric bill, taxes, nothing. Not for 2 whole years. Very odd. Also, when we started living together, he didn't have his room rented out in the former apartment yet, so he was still responsible for that portion of the rent. He would send a Venmo payment to his mother on the 1st of every month for his portion. I don't own property, but I can't think of a scenario where I would Venmo my mother to pay the mortgage on a property I supposedly own. Getting more odd. He would then go to his parents' house for an afternoon and come back really upset. Usually when I would ask why, it was because they were having financial problems and he needed to help them out. I totally understood this and supported him. He literally has cried on my shoulder about this many times. He tried to start a company years back and ended up getting into debt somehow. He told me this debt was $17,000 and that he paid it off. I'm confused because I met him only 2 to 3 years after the supposed debt accrued, company dissolved, and it was already paid off. He told me when he moved back home after the business failed, he was $17,000 in debt and living at his parents' house working at a minimum wage job. How someone with a minimum wage job pays off that much debt in 3 years, I'll never know. We got into a fight a few weeks ago and I finally had enough and confronted him about these things. Long story short, he doesn't help his parents, they actually pay his phone bill, and this was all a lie. He doesn't own that apartment, he didn't pay off that debt from his company. He initially told me his parents helped pay it off and then like 3 minutes later, came clean, and said that his business partner paid it off, so I have literally no idea what the truth is there, and if anything, in my eyes, his parents are the ones who are financially supporting him. So now, I'm dating a 31-year-old man who doesn't pay his own phone bill, was lying to me and/or completely fabricating aspects of his life for 3 years, and then when confronted about it, continued to make up lies and then came clean about them 5 minutes later. I'm obviously concerned that he could lie for this long, about fundamentally important things like our values, and so on. I sincerely thought I would marry this man. He seemed to understand me like no one else and to be a truly caring and genuine person. Now I'm having a hard time rationalizing actually planning a life around someone who would not only lie about their background and family etc. but also financial aspects. Aside from that, I now can't tell what is the truth and what is a lie. I've also noticed other things he has lied about, called him out on it, and he has denied it outright to my face. I see this as a form of gaslighting, as I know I'm not wrong but he is trying to convince me otherwise. Am I overreacting? Is this a white lie that went haywire? Or is this actually a series of complete and utter bullcrap used to manipulate me? And also, is it insane for me to actually consider a life with this man? Any advice is appreciated. A user in the comments said, "This isn't a white lie, this is a huge web of lies in which he's built the foundations of your relationship. I would forever be wondering what else he's lied about. Get out." The next story is titled, Update, my 28F boyfriend, 32M, told me a white lie for almost 3 years and I'm not sure if it's a red flag. My previous post got more attention than expected, so I figured I'd update. Well, it's over. As many of you suggested, I couldn't possibly build my life around someone who lied so pathologically. I initially agreed to work on the relationship provided that my ex get therapy to work through why he felt compelled to lie about so many aspects of his life. I also requested that he come clean to his parents, my parents, and anyone else he lied to or embellished the truth to. He agreed to this and seemed genuinely interested in working on things and himself. I really wanted it to work out and was willing to accept that maybe he was just wildly insecure, had some attachment issues or something that caused him to act this way. I waited 4 months for the therapy and confessions to happen and they never did, not surprisingly. For those of you who were confused about how I didn't know he did not own this apartment for so long, thought I had never met his parents, I had met them many, many times. But TBH, they are pretty cold people who I never really connected with that much and was definitely not comfortable enough to be like, "Hey, is your son a pathological liar or is all of this true?" On top of that, he also told a lot of these lies to his parents as well, so they wouldn't have been keen to what I was talking about anyway. It got to the point where basically anything that came out of his mouth seemed like a lie or at least a half-truth to me. Also, I lost respect for someone who could lie so easily and then not even feel guilty enough or any remorse to come clean about it. I'm pretty honest, almost to a fault. So the cognitive dissonance there that occurred from being with someone who had basically opposite values from me was tough. I'm sure there were a lot of other things he was hiding, but I don't even care. I've been single and living alone for a week and to be frank, I'm killing it. I am now responsible for 100% of my rent and I barely have any savings left, but I still feel like a giant weight has lifted off my shoulders. Crazy how that works. I want to thank all of the people who gave me the hard truth straight up and encouraged me to leave. Even though it was all coming from internet strangers, it still helps to hear people tell you that you deserve more than what you're getting. I'm so happy and I must be giving off a much better vibe because I've already had 2 dates and been asked for my number a handful of times. I'm a server at a restaurant, lol. I sound like a cocky butthole, but God, does it feel good to remember you're not as worthless as someone made you feel. Thanks Reddit, and if any of you are in a relationship with someone who is like this, GTFO and don't look back. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the relationship stories. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video and write a comment. I really appreciate your support and it helps my channel so much. Thank you.